This is my new 2021 Kawasaki W650. The W versions of this bike have been around since back in the 60s when Kawasaki leased the rights to copy the BSA engine, and then they made a lot of refinements to it. And now it's a much better engine than BSA ever was. The W1 was the first one in the mid-60s. They imported them into the United States as a 650 engine, W650, in 2000 and 2001. 2000 was blue, 2001 was green. I had a 2000 model, and that was a beautiful 650 engine. I wish I'd have never gotten rid of that. Now they've come back for a couple of years in 2020 and 2021 with a red one in 2020 and the blue one now in 2021 called Metallic Ocean Blue. And it's a very metallic paint, but you can't really see here in the garage. But it is a beautiful paint job. It uses a more unusual design. What looks like a pushrod tube is really a drive shaft for a bevel gear to drive the camshaft. Most cams are driven by cam chains. Cam chains stretch and or break, and as they stretch, the valve timing and the valve clearances change. But with a bevel gear, nothing ever changes. It's perfect all the time. This also has a shim and bucket valve adjustment, which on most bikes is a real pain in the butt to adjust. Like on my KLR 650, you had to take the top of the engine off and remove the camshaft, which was a major job. On this one, you remove 4 bolts to take the valve cover off, because that's the only way you can get at it to check your valves. Then you can check all 4 of the valves. This has got a 4-valve system. And if a shim needs to be changed, you just slide the tappet over. It's spring-loaded. And use a magnet to lift the little shim out and drop a new shim in and let the tappet slide back into place. Put the valve cover on. Simple as it can get. Very good design, probably the best design ever developed. It does have preload adjustable springs, which a lot of bikes don't have today. I've recently bought several of them that didn't have. Or they're in a place you can't get at to adjust them, like my Yamaha, which is, you can't even see it, but there is a lock nut in there, which I can't even get a good picture of, but there is a lock nut on it. Let's see if we can get in there. There it is. You got 2 rings. The top one's a lock nut, and the bottom one's your adjustment. They make a special wrench for that, Yamaha does, but you can't actually get in there with that wrench. Some guys have used a punch and a drift to break that loose and screw it up or down, but you really can't adjust it. It's almost impossible. The best way to adjust it would be to take the shock completely out of it. Another major job. Very poor design for an adjustable shock. That's on the Yamaha XT250. And of course, my new Honda CT125 has no adjustment on it. So, and well, first of all, this bike does weigh more than my Kawasaki KLR 650, which weighed in about 432. The Himalayan weighed in about the same or a little more. This weighs almost 500 pounds, 491.2 pounds. So it's a much heavier bike, but you don't notice the weight. It's only got a 31.2-inch seat height. So that's nice. It does have a center stand, which the Himalayan didn't have. Oh, wait a minute, I take that back. The Himalayan had. It has a center stand, which the Himalayan had, but I could never get it up on the center stand. Everybody complains about how the center stand is almost useless on the Himalayan unless you've got two guys to lift it up and put it on it. I can get this one up on the center stand. This does have a double instrumentation with a tach and a speedometer, and a lot of motorcycles today don't have a tach anymore, and I love a tach on a motorcycle. It has shock mounted mirrors. The mounting behind that rubber right there has got a shock mounted rubber mount in it, and so the whole thing can move around to take up vibration. It's got a fully adjustable clutch lever, so you can adjust the reach. And it's hydraulic assist, and it has a slipper clutch. If you don't know what a slipper clutch is, that's so if you downshift too quickly, let off the clutch too quickly, your rear tire would grab on most bikes and break loose and cause a dangerous situation. With a slipper clutch, you can downshift rapidly and drop the clutch, and the clutch slips to take up the difference so you don't lock up your rear wheel. It has full LED lighting system. Right now I've got the key on, and so it's got kind of like a running light down here. But when you start it up, then the whole thing lights up brilliantly. LEDs on the turn signals and the brake light. It does have dual throttle body fuel injection, which isn't perfect, which I expect it to be on a Japanese bike, but when the bike is cold, it does start and run, unlike my Himalayan did. But when you start down the road in it, before it warms up, you will get a little surging. But after it warms up, it runs perfect. However, modern fuel injection should run better than that, especially on a Japanese bike. This is the wheel adjustment. Not as nice as the wheel adjustment for the chain adjustment, I should say, on the Yamaha, which has little numbers and little notches on it so that you can make both sides exactly the same. I wish everybody used that system, but they don't. Instead of a dipstick, this does have a sight glass. And right now, it appears to be low on oil. But after you start it up, let it run, and then shut it off for a couple minutes, then it comes back up again. This is the other throttle body. And they do make chrome covers to go over that. They make a lot of chrome accessories for it. It's got chrome steel fenders, something you don't see on bikes anymore. They make a chrome cover to go over that also. And I've got a carry rack ordered for it. Right now I've just got this sitting on top of there because we just got back from a long ride and I needed something to carry my camera in. Comes with knee pads like the old bikes. The Japanese were trying to copy the English bikes of the day, the BSA, and this design of this bevel cam drive came from Ducati. And of course, the Triumph. This is mostly a Triumph look-alike bike. It has a lot of torque. It's only developing 51 horsepower, and an 800 engine, 773 cc, should be developing about 70 or 65 horsepower. But they've got this really detuned, so it'll last forever. The 650, when they imported those had 49 or 50 horsepower, depending on where you get your information from. So they had almost as much horsepower as this, but this has got a lot more torque. And it pulls really strong in the low range and mid range. And it's very fast. It will set you right back in the seat. 19-inch front wheel, single disc caliper, and 18-inch rear single disc. The rear is not all that good. I don't think you could lock it up. Doesn't have a lot of grab, but a lot of bikes have that similar complaint. It does have ABS, a 2-channel system, front and rear, but is not switchable. Very period style tuck and roll seat. And unlike the Himalayan, it does have a helmet lock. There's the lock to release the seat to get at things under there. That's where the tool kit is kept. It only says Kawasaki in one spot on it, on the rear of the seat. And up here, it's just got a big W. Nobody will even know what that is when they look at it. Of course, it's got chrome mirrors, chrome bezel around the headlamp, chrome fuel filler cap, chrome handlebars, something I wish the Honda CT125 would have had some chrome in those places, because everything that's painted scratches so easily. And you've got your passenger grab handles, like the old bikes of the 60s. It's got a very Triumph sound to it because it's got the bullet exhaust. Let's see if we can hear it on camera. And that's what it sounds like. These run about $9,200 if you can find one. They're very hard to find, and this may be the last year, maybe a 2-year bike, just like the one they imported 20 years ago. Once in a while, you can find a dealer trying to get rid of them because they haven't sold well, and I picked this one up with a $2,200 discount over in Tucson, Arizona. So I got a pretty good buy on it. And if it's the last year, it'll be a collector's item. And if it's not the last year, then parts will be easier to get for it. Not that it'll probably ever need any parts. I know guys that the W800 has been around for quite a few years, but we've just gotten them into the United States for 2 years. About 3 or 4 years ago, they imported the Cafe Racer version of this, and it didn't sell at all. It was ugly. So then last year and this year, they imported the street version, and it isn't selling well either. But I know guys that have got, that have the W800, that have had them for quite a few years. They've got anywhere from 30 to 60,000 miles on them, and they've never had to have any service at all. So they're a very, very long life engine, very long life bike, total Kawasaki dependability. Here's another feature you never see talked about on Kawasaki motorcycles, and that is it has what's called positive neutral. On Kawasaki's, and they've had this for many years, when you're down into low gear, all you have to do is lift up on the shifter and it will only go into neutral. It will not bypass neutral and go into second gear like so many other bikes will if you don't balance it between first and second. My Himalayan was the worst of every transmission I've ever owned, and that one you could almost never pull it from first gear into neutral. It always went into second, and then you had to step down very carefully to get it into neutral. But the positive neutral on the Kawasaki transmission is by far the best motorcycle transmission in the whole world. It is just so easy to find neutral. Here we're out in the sun. You can see the metallic in the paint a little better. Very pretty. metallic ocean blue. Now let's take it for a ride. Okay, getting ready for a nice long ride on our new Kawasaki W800. There's mine, one of the mine shafts up there.
Oh, yeah.
This is where Blanche Nolan lived. She was the last resident of this town.